and welcome to the Tiny Human Knits podcast, my podcast about knitting, sewing, crochet, cross stitch, and all manner of crafty goodness. My name is Laura, and I'm coming to you from High Level, Alberta, Canada, where I live with my husband and our cat and our little bunny, who are both snoozing together right now, and it's really cute. Although the cat has been slightly rambunctious and cabin fevery today, so if there's disruptions, she likes to play with my lights. So if you hear any background noise, it's probably her. She's feeling a little bit needy. But our bunny is really quiet and keeps to himself. Unless you open the fridge, then he'll come running to you. Anyway, you can find me online as Tiny Human Knits pretty much everywhere. I'm on Ravelry as Tiny Human Knits on Instagram, and we have a Ravelry group for the podcast under the Tiny Human Knits title in the groups tab. And links for everything will be down below. I also have an Etsy shop where I sell my notions, pouches, bags, and hand-dyed yarn. It's pretty much empty right now because we are still in the process of moving, so I haven't been able to fill up the shop again. And I'm in a different room of the same house we've been in for the last pretty much almost a year. But this is the room that I set up to be like my second office that I painted and made pretty, and then about a week after, my husband told me that we were going to be buying a house. So I'm filming in here today because it's a little bit prettier. My other office I packed it all up the day before yesterday, so it's looking a little bit depressing. And also the light direction in this room is a little bit better, so it's not quite as direct light, so it's nicer. Yes, dear. Is that so? That's my cat yelling at me. She wants to go outside. It's really nice, and it has been so nice. Kitty, shush, shush, shush. It's been so nice and bright and warm. I've been able to have my windows open, and it's springy and delightful. But right now she's going into heat, so I'm not letting her outside. Shush. Come here. Come here. We don't let her outside when she's in heat because she will get herself pregnant. Isn't that right? She will, because we're out of town right now, and everybody around us has farm cats, so and nobody gets their cats fixed around here just because people aren't as precious with their pets up here, which really bothers me. So we're going to get her fixed. Oh, goodness, no. We're going to get her fixed, but there's no place around here that's affordable, so we might have to bring her to the city. Anyway, this is a really long tangent for my cat. Where was I going with this? Other things that you can find on my Ravelry page, group page. She's playing with the cloth. On the groups page, we are hosting a Make from Stashalong, which is make anything from your stash that was purchased, yarn, that was purchased before January 3rd. You can put towards the make along, and there are like 300 things in the finished objects thread so far. 200, 300, so many things. It's so nice to see. And I'm thinking after I move I might do another draw for prizes. It might be something from the shop when I get it reopened, so keep entering your products into the finished object thread, and there's lots of chatter too, which is really nice. And I think that's everything administrative. Yeah. Ow. So, just gonna drink my latte. While my cat claws my feet, I might put that over here so she doesn't knock it over. So I have had a fairly productive 2 weeks. My last podcast I had 6 finished objects. This time I only have 3. I'm still in the process of stress knitting through the move. So I will start with those. I am wearing one of them, but I will talk about that after I talk about the first one I finished. And this is my Bistort cardigan, pullover. From the Knit Picks website. I ordered it from Knit Picks. It is a pattern. They released it, Kitty. I'm gonna have to shut you out. Shush. No. You can purchase the pattern on the Knit Picks website, and I bought the pattern and the yarn at the same time. When they first released it, you could buy like a kit, And so I just purchased the exact same kit with the colors in it that were on the original picture of it because I didn't want to try to figure out which colors I wanted, and I absolutely adored the way it looked on the pattern page. So I just ordered the exact same. The only thing I did different pattern-wise is I excluded the Latvian braid that was supposed to be on the bottoms of the main body and the sleeves, and then on the top collar. So on the edges of the ribbing. And I also changed, and the reason for that is I like Latvian braids, I think they're gorgeous, but I didn't like the stark contrast of the darker, because it was done with the darkest blue color. And I didn't like the dark contrast of that. And also, I always find that joining Latvian braids in the round looks terrible. So I didn't want to do that. And also I didn't want to. But I also changed the ribbing to a 2x2 rib. Originally in the pattern, it's supposed to be a 1x1. And I don't particularly like the look of 1x1 rib. And so I just changed it to a 2x2, which is easy enough. For the body, it was the same amount of stitches. I didn't have to change anything. But when I cast on for the sleeves, I just cast on 2 fewer, because they're supposed to cast on 42. But that's not divisible by 2 or by 4 when you're doing a 2x2 rib in the round. So I just cast on 40 stitches instead, and then increased by 2 stitches immediately after I was done the ribbing. Kitty. Okay, I'm gonna put her outside this room. No. You're being annoying. Here we go, nice and quiet. So yeah, and then I made everything else according to pattern. All exactly the same. I did go up a needle size as soon as I started the color work, because I find that stops me from tightening my color work a bit too much. And then I also did Skandir's tip of after you knit a few stitches in color work, you sort of pull the stitches to prevent them from getting too tight as well. I really like this pattern. It's gorgeous. I will probably keep it for special occasions when it's really cold in the winter. It's a bit too fancy to wear and warm, because most of the rows have 3 colors going through them, pardon me, in the same row, so which makes it really plush, really thick. The one problem I have with it though is that I did it in the 33¼ inch bust size, and my gauge throughout the entire project is spot on. I kept measuring it to see if it was okay, but in the 33¼ inch bust size pattern, the sleeves are only supposed to be like 10¾ inches in circumference at the bicep, which my arms are not that thin. And it's not, I thought maybe it was because I did, my color work was too tight, but when I got to the color work on the sleeves, I was doing magic loop up till that point. But then after that, I put them on a 16-inch circular, what you would use for a hat, and that really stretched out the stitches. So it's not that I was knitting it too tight, it's just that the pattern has the arms too small. So I'm never going to knit this pattern again, I'm going to just say that now. If I do a 3-color in one row pattern again, it's going to be top down, because I hate joining from the bottom and then knitting the yoke, because the sleeves are always way too tight when you're trying to turn it around. That might just be me, but it's way easier if you go from the top down. But if I were to do it again, theoretically, I would add another 8-stitch repeat and figure out the numbers for decreasing after, because it would be easy enough, because it is just an 8-row or 8-stitch repeat until you do decreases, and then it turns into a 6-stitch repeat. So doing the math for that would be really easy. So if you are going to be knitting this pattern, the sleeves are too tight. The way that it fits when I wear it is I just have to fiddle them around a little bit. they kind of look a little bit twisted just because they are so tight on the bicep, but if it does turn out to be, and I should say I have been doing a lot more workouts lately that require upper body strength, so it might just be that my biceps are getting bigger, I don't know. But if they do keep getting bigger, because it's not like my arms are going to get any thinner, I might give it to my friend Elise because she's quite slender. So, or give it to someone, who will wear it more often. I've got a cousin who's very, very slender, so she would look fantastic in it. So that just it might be what I end up doing. So, and I don't think I mentioned it, but I did knit it in the same, like I said, the Knit Picks yarn, which is the Wool of the Andes Sport, which is what it was designed in. So that was my first finished object. And my second finished object is what I'm wearing, and that is I think it's pronounced Cille, it's Cille pullover, and the pattern was in this book here, Perfectly Feminine Knits. I've had this book for quite a while. I've knit a sweater out of it before, and I actually don't think I've ever made or worn the sweater that I made out of this on my podcast, but it's a well-worn sweater. And it's this pattern, it's the Rosa pattern. And I knit this sweater almost 2 years ago. I'm gonna have to show it one of these days or wear it, maybe in the winter, it's getting really warm here. But I just omitted the sort of boat neck thing, and it's just a scoop neck instead. But the pattern that I am wearing is the Cille spiral lace top. It's that here. And I did the wide neck version. It does come with the option of a taller neck version, which I would love to make that in that dark color for fall. And the pattern is designed to be made with 2 lace weight yarns held together, which makes it nice and lofty. I used 1 strand of Knit Picks Alpaca Cloud, I think, in the Oyster Heather colorway, and then 1 strand of Cascade 220 fingering in the Buff colorway. And I love it. It's really warm considering. It's a slightly oversized, looser top with the fitted sleeves. And so I did the wide neck version, so it goes sort of to the points of my shoulders. And the way you put it together, it's actually, if you do end up making it, it can be slightly confusing when you're trying to put it together. But it's just a matter of matching up your spirals. So the spirals are supposed to sort of continue on to the back side. So it's 2 pieces that are exactly the same, except the front has 8 rows of, instead of going around, you're going back and forth to create a slightly lower neckline. And then it's a lot of 3 needle bind off joints. Actually, the shoulders and the underarm are all 3 needle bind off. And then it's got, hopefully my chair is not too loud. It's got like scooped on either side, and then it's there. So you knit in the round for, I did it for all of it. Technically the pattern says that you're supposed to join the shoulders with 3 needle bind off and then knit the sleeves flat, but I just joined the shoulders, put aside the sleeve stitches, and then joined the underarm stitches, and then knit the sleeves in the round because I didn't want to have to deal with knitting it flat and then seaming because I didn't want to. And then you have all the live stitches for the rib at the bottom. You have all the live stitches for the sleeves, and the only place you have to pick up at all is the tiny section where you do back and forth rows on the front, so that you you have like 13 stitches on either side that you need to pick up, and that's the only time you ever have to pick up anything. There's no seaming as long as you do the same thing I did with the sleeves. And it's such a simple knit. It went by so quickly. And the spiral may look complicated, but really it's just, you cast on a number of stitches, join in the round, and then all you have to do after that is yarn overs and knit 2 togethers. Every row has some form of the lace, but it's super, super easy. The first couple stitches or the first couple rows, and everything's listed in the book. So it's very like line by line, and it tells you how many stitches you should have on the needle at every point. So, and it would be really easy to fix a mistake. Super easy, just knit 3 together instead of 2 if you missed one. But it's every other row after a certain point is the same as the last. It's really easy. It's something you can knit very easily while watching television. It's like slightly more difficult than a sock, really. And the pattern calls for it has 2 different sizes that you change with the gauge of your knitting. It was supposed to be for my size 6mm, but because I'm using a fingering and a lace weight, it was a little bit thicker, so I went down to a 5mm, I think. Yeah, I think so. Because yeah, with 2 lace weights, it's going to be a lot lighter than a fingering and a lace weight. So, and I originally wound up. I have a ridiculous amount of the alpaca cloud from Knit Picks, and I don't know why I ordered so much. I'm never going to use that much. But I wound up, or I caked up 150 grams of the Cascade 220 and 100 grams of the alpaca cloud. So, and I didn't want to do any more than that because I didn't know how much I would end up needing. But this is what I have left of the 100-gram cake of alpaca cloud. And I love it's just a slight halo, but it's super soft. And this is how much I have of the Cascade 220. That's how much I had left. So I'm really glad that's all I ended up caking up. So these will go into my little scrap jar, I think. But yeah, I didn't want to use the alpaca cloud by itself because then it would just like keep draping until it was to my knees. So that's why I used the 100% wool, just to give it some structure, and it's so comfortable. It has a little bit of an itch factor, but that's just right on the top of my arms, but that is mostly because it's been really sunny where I am, and I am allergic to sunlight, so my skin is slightly agitated already. So it's just the fact that it's rubbing up against something that's already been exposed to sunlight, so it's a little bit sensitive. I love that pattern. I love this pattern. I have made it before. I made it for a young lady that I used to know, and I made it in 2 strands of, I think it's loops and threads wool-like that you can buy at Michael's. It's super, super cheap. It's what I made my wedding dress out of. And that's the wrong, if you're making this, use a natural fiber, because before I blocked this, it looked really funny because it's still in the swirl sort of way of knitting, so it's kind of lumpy, bumpy. So blocking is a really important part of this this pattern. So if you do make it, use a natural fiber because you're going to need to be able to block it properly. And it did block out really well. I am getting fuzz all over my leggings though. That should only be for the first while. That also might be cat hair, it's hard to tell. Okay, so my third finished object was something I actually finished faster than I thought I was going to. And that is my Land of Sweets cowl. And the last time I showed this, I was up to, I can't actually remember. I can't remember, but the last time I showed it, I did have this line here. Yes, I had this one, and then after that I had a sort of berry color that I had, it was leftover yarn that I used in my Una shawl by Pixel Atlantis, which is Rosie. Hi, Rosie. And then I had like a dark brown that was a leftover from a shawl I knit for my cousin Jennifer. And I ended up knitting farther and farther, and then realizing, I think I got up to here, this line, this right here. Oh, this is a pattern by Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade, by the way. This was part of her knit bend. But yeah, I had knit up to this stripe, and I realized every time I looked at it, those 2 stripes down here were bothering me so much because they didn't match the tone of the rest of the cowl. And so I finally gave in and ripped it out. And I am so happy I did. I am so happy with this. This is, I think, I told my husband yesterday, it's 17 out of 24 stripes are either my own yarn, my own hand-dyed yarn, or yarning apart yarns, which I love. But it is gorgeous. And it's funny because I find the lace rows move faster for me because when I have no pattern to follow, I do get a little bit bored. Unless like it's different, stockinette and socks or sweaters is different, but when you have when you have more patterning going on, I find it a little bit boring. I love this lace though. So this is yarning apart. That is their House Sparrow dry speckle. This is a Knit Picks, it's their cashmere fingering weight blend, can't remember. This is yarning apart Dust Light. This is yarning apart House Sparrow dry speckle again. My Victoria, my Lulu. This I'm not even sure, I can't remember where I got this from. It was just left over my bin. Yarning apart Spilled Ink. This is a leftover from my first bendy era that I made. Another yarning apart House Sparrow dry speckle. Victoria again. This is House Sparrow wet speckle. This is a Woolberry in the She Sells Seashells. Yarning apart again from my bendy era, Lulu, Dust Light. Again, I don't know. And then it's just like, yeah, I repeated colors because I don't have enough colors that are different, that are the same tone. So, and I'm totally happy with it anyway because I think it looks gorgeous. And it's so soft. And it smells like my wool wash. So I made this, I finished this 2 days ago. And I blocked it. And it's the first time I used my blocking wires, which was awesome because it was so easy to pin out because I just put one on the other side and pulled it. So it fits just super nice. And yesterday it was really cold for some reason, probably because I've been leaving my windows open all day. So I had on the cowl, and then I have this Curia Cove by Tammy Gore that I made out of my Lulu and Victoria. So I had just put on my cowl and then put this sort of around it. So I was like bundled in beautiful soft colors, and it was so nice. I love these types of colors lately. I'm really drawn to soft, wearable colors. This doesn't count because it was a kit, so I'm going to take this off because it is going to get way too warm. I don't have the window open here. But I would absolutely recommend this pattern if you have some colors that aren't ready to be put into like a memories blanket, but you want to put them into something pretty. And I think once I start my summer job again, the air conditioning is always cranked up so high. So like last year I always had this blanket shawl that everyone was always sharing, so it was always so cold. So I think having these types of things that I can wear around my neck just to warm me up is going to be really nice. And those are my finished objects, and I'm quite happy with them. They're a lot of wearable things, and I'm just really enjoying the projects I'm working on lately, and that's the most important thing, is to really like what you're making. But I do still have a good chunk of my two favorite yarning apart colors together, which is the House Sparrow wet speckle, and then I have my Spilled Ink as well. And I'm thinking, because I have I think I have 44 grams of this, and I think they're both in the 40s anyway. And I'm definitely ordering more of this one to make myself a boxy sweatering because it is so pretty. So I think I might hold these two yarns together and knit myself a hat with them. A nice cabled hat. So I've got those last two to work out because I know I'll be ordering more of those colors, so I'm not concerned about using them all up and not putting any in a memories blanket or anything like that. So, but I have a couple projects on the go, and the first one I've been working on is a pair of socks for my husband because he's a spoiled brat. I really like making socks for him though because he literally doesn't wear any other socks anymore unless all of his other socks are dirty. So they're very well loved, so it makes me want to make more and more for him. So I am using some Patons Kroy, and this is the Grey Brown Marl colorway. I've had this in my stash for quite a while. I at one point bought 4 balls of this because I have knit myself and my cousin Jennifer a pair in this exact same color. So I had 2 left over for him. I'm working on the first one right now. So these are for my husband. And I'm knitting these on my Addy sock rockets. I love the striping sequence in this yarn. So much. And the color, like the depth of this red really makes me want to knit and I should say the pair that I have for myself, I've probably got about 8 pairs of socks that I've knit for myself. This, the one I knit out of this, is my favorite. I want to wear them all the time. So, and I've got a lot of other Patons Kroy, just single balls that I want to make for myself. And I think I need to make those more often than like the hand-dyed socks, because the hand-dyed socks for me don't feel as nice. They're almost too soft. But yeah, these are for him. They're 2.25 millimeter needles, 32-inch length cord, which is my favorite for doing socks. I cast on 14 stitches on each needle in Judy's Magic Cast On, increased to 64 stitches, and I'm just knitting now until it's 7.5 inches until I can start doing the gusset for my Fleagle heel. So that is my first work in progress, and it's going really well. I love knitting with this yarn because it's woolly but still soft at the same time. And I'm just holding that in my flowery project bag that I stole from my shop. My second work in progress is a pair of socks for myself because I got inspired by, I think I was watching the New Leaf podcast, and she just released a pattern for a pair of socks that's self-striping yarn with color work in it, which I thought was so beautiful. And I don't have any self-striping that would be good for that yet, but I think in the summer if I buy some, I'm definitely going to do that pattern. But it was so bright and so cheerful that I was looking at my yarn stash, and I decided that I need to cast on a pair of socks for myself that are nice and bright and cheery. And I got this yarn, which is the Head Over Heels by Stylecraft. And this is in the Sugar Loaf colorway. I got this from my friend Rosie of Pixel Atlantis in an exchange last summer, I believe. Yeah. She also sent me a big bag of Skittles. It was great. So I'm knitting these on a 2 millimeter because I have decided that for myself, I prefer a denser sock. So I'm going to start knitting my softer yarns or my, like things like Regia and Patons Kroy can be done on a 2.25 because they are a little bit thicker. But this is the standard sock weight yarn. So I am knitting them on a 2 millimeter needle. Unfortunately though, I did, and it's only like a little bit, so I did cast on for 64 stitches on the 2 millimeter needle, but I am finding that they're a little bit too big, like just a little bit. So I'm thinking I might rip back to the last increase and then just have 60 stitches on my needles instead, because I think that'll fit better, because I don't want to knit on a 2 millimeter needle and then have them be too big. That would be such a pain in the butt. But I'll be changing my stitch counts and needle sizes for socks depending on the weight of the yarn, because it does make such a big difference for me. So I'm going to have to bite that bullet and rip back. I don't want to, but I will. And I'm holding that in a new bag that I made for myself, which is this gorgeous, springy, beautiful fabric. It's got a thread on it. I do have this line of bags going into the shop. It'll probably not be until next month because I just don't have the time to fill up the shop properly, but there will be some of these types of bags going in. Okay, my last work in progress that I've actually been working on. I've got some that I need to cast on. I need to finish my the twin sweaters that I was working on, and also the my other nephew Eric needs a sweater, which I found a pattern for today from Nordic Stitches. It's the autumn leaf. That's probably gonna be wrong. I'll be showing it to you next podcast anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I am knitting the Zweig pattern by Caitlyn Hunter, and I love Caitlyn Hunter. I love her lace, I love her style, I love everything. So if you don't know, which I'm sure you do, the Zweig by Boylan Knitworks. It's a 2-color sweater with some color work and some beautiful lace. And I cast that on, I cast it on while I was making the sweater still, but I just sort of cast on the collar and left it. But I have worked on it a couple days since then. Just move this on my needle so I don't drop anything. But I have done this much so far. I'm just past the lace section. I don't know if you can see that. It's so beautiful. I love twisted stitches and lace so much. But I'm knitting this out of my own hand-dyed yarn in the Wild Lettuce colorway, and then the contrast color is Woolberry Fiber Co. in She Sells Seashells, which I think I have a tag for, yeah. Woolberry Fiber Co. She Sells Seashells. And I got this last summer, and I thought it would be perfect because the Woolberry Fiber Co. colorway has flecks of gold, but it's also got that really soft pink, which I thought would go with the Wild Lettuce so well. So I just finished doing the last increases for the body, and now I'm just got a short section of the color work, sort of striped color work that's here. I've only got that left to do. I'm going to finish that, but before I continue on with the body, I do need to get more bare yarn to dye, because I started this with one skein of my Wild Lettuce. I don't have any more, but I was desperate to cast it on. I'm expecting some either this week or early next week though, so I'll be able to dye some up. Pardon me. But hopefully in the interim, I have enough time to knit my nephews some sweaters and pack up the rest of my house because it's not all done yet. It's on its way though. I am loving this project though. It is so fun. The lace is so enjoyable. I did all the lace yesterday and I was enjoying it so much. When you finish your increases, it's only 14 stitches in each section. So there's a really good rhythm to it, and then every time I got to my beginning of the round marker, I would just immediately start with the next ones because I always need to finish my row before I can put it down. So it was really fun and it went by really fast and I really enjoyed it. I don't know if I'm going to do the twisted stitches or the 1-2 stitch cables. I'm not sure yet. I think it'll depend how I feel once I get to that point. I'm not sure if it needs it though. I don't really want it to detract from the lace pattern, but we'll see how I feel when I get to it. But I'm also holding that in one of my own bags because it's what I do. This is one of my patchwork bags. And that's all I'm working on. I'm definitely going to be casting on the sweaters for my nephews today because if I don't, I only have 3 weeks until we go to see them, so it's not like I have a whole huge amount of time. But hopefully I can start them and do some packing today because ugh. It's amazing how much stuff you can accumulate in a small room. I wish we were already moved, but it probably won't be until next weekend as well. So we're gonna move in and have 2 weeks to settle and unpack before we go to see my family, and then we're coming back and I immediately start my summer job. So it's going to be a very busy few weeks. I have one acquisition, well 2 skeins from one dyer today to show you. And that is from my BFFs, my yarn dyer BFF, and that's Yarning Apart. I ordered 2 skeins from them, one to do my another test knit for a pair of socks that I designed in January, the cabled socks. And I didn't have any sport weight sock yarn because I didn't want to knit it in just 100% like wool. I wanted it to be with nylon just in case. And I wanted something a little bit, not plain, but not too dark or too variegated, just for the cables to be able to show up. So I ordered the Yarning Basics Sport Weight 7525 in the Marble colorway. And I thought it was nice and subtle and gorgeous. And there's their card. And then I also, because you know when you're buying one, you might as well get another, I ordered a DK weight in their Outwash colorway, which is just beautiful. And this is 100% superwash merino. Look at those colors. Like, look at it right there. So pretty. And I originally ordered this just because I thought it was absolutely gorgeous. And I didn't really have anything that I thought I might knit out of it. I was thinking maybe a hat. But when I got it, I realized that it goes so well with my, this is their DK as well. This is Rust Spots. Now this is a 75-25, according to the tag. But it's the same weight and amount of yards. And I just thought these go together so well. And I have 3 of the Rust Spots and 1 of the Outwash, so I'm thinking I might make a shawl. And if I have to design it myself, because I can't really find a shawl design that's quite what I want, then I will have to do that. But I think they're gorgeous. And they also included a handmade bracelet. I left it with my sewing stuff because I was sewing, and it has charms on it that are based on Serenity, which is a firefly. If anyone's ever looking for something good to watch Firefly, 'cause it's amazing. Yeah, with you could use them as like stitch markers or whatever you wanted really, but it kept like hitting my sewing machine and it was kind of aggravating me, so I put them aside and I forgot to bring them in here. But I think they're gorgeous. I love yarning apart. If anyone's looking for a good yarn dyer, yarning apart is amazing. My cat's mad at me. Should go let her in. Fine, you can come in. Quit yelling. Alright, so I was going through all of my yarny possessions when I was packing, and I was really being critical of reminding myself that just because you have the yarn doesn't mean you're ever going to use it, so maybe give it to a nicer home. So I might be doing a bit of a de-stash on my Etsy shop, just because it's the easiest platform for me to do it on. And so I'm going to be doing a bit of a de-stash of some yarns that I'm probably never going to use. But I'm also, kitty, be quiet. Shush. But I also have some hand knits that I just never wear. So if you're interested in any of these, head over to my Etsy shop. I'm probably going to be putting them up tomorrow morning if there's any interest. If there's no interest, then I might just give them to a donation shop. But I have a few handmaids that I'm just never gonna wear. I made them just to make them. So I've got I've got this crochet hat. It's made out of acrylic yarn. I made it a couple years ago. It's got tassels, not very good ones. That probably won't be very expensive if anyone wants to buy it. I've got this color as well. And this might seem a bit mean, but I am going to be putting up my bendy arrow. Because I feel like I knit this and I loved it, but it's just not the colors I wear anymore. I'm not drawn to it. It's lovely, but it's just not right anymore. So I'll be putting that up if anyone would like it. And then I also have this baby sweater that I made. And I was just going through a phase of making a lot of baby clothes. It doesn't have any buttons, and it's hand-dyed. It's made of wool. This is a lovely pattern. I don't remember what the pattern name is, but it's gorgeous. But that'll also be up. And then I have my Peabody sweater that I knit, I think 2 years ago-ish. And this is a Brooklyn tweed pattern. It's made out of wool of the Andes, Knit Picks wool of the Andes. I have made one of these before in Patons classic wool, and it's in green, and I wear it all the time in the winter, but this one I have never worn. I will say it's a bit tight at the neck. I can put it over my head just fine, but it's a bit tight. But if you have a smallish person, or if you are a smallish person, or if you have like a teenage girl that's quite small, this would be perfect. I'm just never going to wear it, and I know I'm not. And I don't want to unravel it for the yarn because I'd rather just buy new yarn. And if anyone else wants it, then awesome. I've got this top that I made for myself a long time ago. And it's a Pearl Soho pattern. And I made it out of Angora. So it is like the warmest top I've ever felt. So it's got the sort of bib front, and then it's got a crisscross back, and it's very cropped. I have never worn this, ever. It's very soft, very, very soft, and very warm. But I've never worn it, and I'm never going to. This doesn't suit me at all. It's not for my body type at all. I'm way too short for it. But if anybody else is interested, it'll be up on there. Kitty, do you have to do that? Are you stuck? You playing? Okay. And the last thing I have in this bag is my, oh goodness, I can't remember the name of this. It's a tank top that was, oh, I cannot remember the name. But it's got this beautiful cable and lace detail. Well, yeah, eyelet, not lace. Might be too high, sorry. I'm not used to where my camera is. And it's lovely. It honestly is really nice. And the thing is, I made it out of acrylic, and it should have been made out of cotton, so it's really warm. But also, I don't really wear fitted tops all that much. So I'm going to make it again for myself, but I'm not going to do the shaping that you do in this pattern as much. So it's just not something I wear again. It's just hanging out in my stash, not doing anything. So yeah, I'm just going to put it up, and if anybody else wants it, then awesome. And those are the garments I'm going to be having in my on my Etsy shop just to get rid of, because I don't need them. And when you've moved as often as I do, you don't really have any sentimental attachment to anything. There's also going to be some yarn. That might go in a little bit later because my friend who I'm teaching to knit wants to go through it first. And there might be some books as well. But I will post those, and if anyone's interested, you can check it out. Are you having fun? So I am going to wrap this up now. I've got a lot of stuff to do, and I'm probably going to procrastinate the rest of the day, even though I should be cleaning and organizing. But I'm going to go put my cat somewhere else. She's being really annoying. But yes, so if you want to check out the Etsy shop, I will leave a link down below for that. And I hope you all are having a wonderful time. I will probably be able to do one more podcast before we go and do all the busy visiting things. So I hope to see you then. And I just want to say thank you everyone for checking me out. It does mean a whole ton to me. If this is your first time, welcome. And then if you are a returning viewer, which I know there's a lot of you, I do really appreciate the support and the interaction I get from you guys. So I have a lot to do, so I will do that. Hopefully get everything done. So yeah, have a wonderful time, and thanks so much for watching. Bye! Are you having fun? You're such a disaster artist. Go away. Oh. Look at this idiot.